Oh, it's such a relaxing day. I'm sitting here in Lynn's Furniture. For what reason? Just looking for something to put all my gadgets on. Now today's episode really awesome because we've got the Canon 5D Mark III, obviously one of the biggest cameras of the year. Really excited about that. And also to help talk about it and to further perhaps your filmmaking aspirations, we have a very special guest from Ginny Boy TV. Those guys that did the recent Kale Upper Style and a whole bunch of other YouTube viral videos. That's all happening on today's episode, which is starting right now.
A year out from failed attempts at WebOS-based mobile devices, Hewlett Packard is looking to make a move back into the booming smartphone space, according to Chief Executive Mac Whitman. In an interview with Fox Business News in the US, Whitman said that given the trend toward consumers and businesses worldwide embracing smartphones as key computing devices, including in the emerging markets around the world, it makes sense for HP to make another push into the market. Canon announced recently the EOS 6D, a professional digital SLR with a full-size 35mm sensor built into a 1.7-pound body that is several millimeters slimmer than the 1.8-pound 5D Mark II or 1.9-pound 5D Mark III. It is said that the much larger sensor and improved processing makes it more powerful and useful for professional shooting. It features built-in GPS and Wi-Fi, opens up a wide variety of features for users. We'll be bringing you a proper review when we get our hands on the Canon EOS 6D, so stay tuned for more. Nintendo TV, a service for the Wii U that incorporates a personalized programming guide to watch live TV and streaming video on the upcoming console, was announced last week at the Wii U press event. Nintendo TV incorporates several video applications on the Wii U using the gamepad as a remote. It features an on-screen remote reminiscent of Apple's scroll wheel on the iPod Classic. Users can explore TV channels and their favorite programming, which is directly tied to each profile, and share their recommendations with their friends. Nintendo TV also includes Twitter, Facebook, IMDb, and Wikipedia integration, and can leverage the information from there to make recommendations to your friends.
Did you ever watch that TV show House? I'm sure you did. You probably caught one or two episodes. What about Captain America, the First Avenger? Perhaps you watched that in the cinema or on Blu-ray or something. Well, there was an episode of House that was filmed entirely with a Canon 5D Mark II, and scenes of Captain America 2 were filmed with the same camera. In fact, there's a whole host of different things out there. Those are just two examples. And now the Mark III is out. Very exciting time. So we've got Ruben, half of Ginny Boy TV, those YouTube viral video guys, to talk us through more of the filmmaking aspect of the camera and one of the improvements, because he did use the Mark II and now he's using the Mark III. Let's find out more. Joining me here today is one half of Ginny Boy TV. The other one, of course, is Jin.
Right.
We have Ruben Kang here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Real pleasure. Now, what you have, of course, is the Canon 5D Mark.
5D Mark III.
All right. Now, before we get in depth about this camera, why don't you talk us through your history of using the 5D, because you originally started on the Mark II, I believe.
Yep. I mean, before this, in production, I've been using from the Panasonic 102D, the camera that you guys are using and all, P2 and all. But the beauty about having the Mark II, when they first came out with DSLR that shot videos, you got beautiful depth of field. That was the first thing that caught my attention. And then when we upgraded to the Mark III, it was even better because we like the fact that, it shot high speed.
Yes.
So it was something the Mark II didn't do, so that was something that...
Interesting. Okay, so how long ago into Ginny Boy TV did you switch from the Mark II to the Mark III?
Possibly about 3 months after we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was after about 2 videos? 3 videos?
2 or 3 videos.
Okay, and the first one you shot was, just so people know what it looks like, would be My Generosity?
No, our first ever video was called Awing, Malaysia.
No, I mean with the Mark III.
With the Mark III, no. Mark III, the first video was I think it was unfold.
It was unfold. Okay.
Yeah,
so we can see almost a difference in quality between your previous videos and then to unfold.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Firstly, talk us through this camera. What are the key differences that cause you to jump up, apart from high speed, from Mark 2 to Mark 3?
Aside from the high speed, the thing that obviously the bigger LCD.
Yes.
And more color, pixels.
Yes.
We love the fact that they had dual card insertions as well, the SD and CF. The ISO, that's the thing that we heard a lot about it in terms of technicalities. We love the fact that in low light conditions, the ISO settings was amazing for this.
That is the key difference between this and the D800 though as well, right? It's the low light.
The low light situation as well. Other than that was also the autofocus function on this. They had more autofocus points.
Yeah. 61 is it?
Or
something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
61. So there's plenty of autofocus points that you could use for your film or photo taking. What else about this? I mean, the lenses. What lenses do you use for your filming?
For JBoy TV, we have 3 basic lenses: the 24-70, a 70-200, and also a 50mm 1.4.
Oh, so very low aperture. Okay, that's good. All right, excellent. Does that help in terms of filmmaking? The availability of lenses, albeit they're not that cheap, but in terms of filmmaking, it allows you different spectrums of filming. I
mean, ideally, we would love having all prime lenses, but obviously the cost is expensive, and we are all like indie YouTube filmmakers.
Yeah.
So 24-70 is one of the lenses that we use almost for everything we do.
Okay.
Because it's very flexible and it still looks good.
All right. What about the body? I mean, you're not exactly the tallest, and you've got rather smaller hands than I do. How do you feel about the grip, holding it?
One of the best things we never noticed as well until we got our hands on it was how the camera feels in your hand. Like, you got really nice grip around the thumbs. It feels so much better than the Mark II. A lot of improvements in terms of its handling.
Okay, what about the button layout? Do you find it convenient
exactly.
enough for usage?
They did it very similar to the 7D as well, where the record button is like right at your thumbs.
Yeah.
And yeah, scrolling through it was amazing. You can, without looking, you know where your white balance and ISO buttons are. So it's quite nice.
It's very convenient in that aspect.
Very convenient.
What about all the settings on this? I mean, is it easier or harder to use, do you find, than the Mark II? Because one criticism is people getting used to the new autofocus.
New autofocus. I mean, I love the autofocus over here, especially when we shoot at bright conditions where manual focus and with shallow depth of field is very difficult to focus. So with this autofocus function, you just press and hold and it's almost done.
Interesting.
And it's just right at your thumb.
What about performance-wise in terms of how fast the images are processed onto the LCD at the back and so forth?
It actually isn't much of a difference. The Mark II itself was really fast itself. It was like a few milliseconds. So yes, I heard that it is a lot faster, but it's barely noticeable, I guess.
In that aspect.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think about, you know, people in Hollywood? In fact, it was the Mark II they used. An episode of House is a good example. Scenes in Captain America.
Exactly.
Is that the future of filmmaking? Do you feel perhaps? I mean, using
definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say it will be the future. It would not overtake proper, like, you know, high definition cameras and all. But it is a great way to encourage younger independent filmmakers to start off, because the cost of it is so way cheaper compared to big end cameras. And I think anyone can be a filmmaker now with just a DSLR.
The megapixels, does it count that the D800 has more? Or do you think it doesn't really matter, it's a moot point?
Okay, because nowadays when it comes to megapixels, it's so much that, you know, unless you're going to print like a billboard, then it matters. If you're not, you know, it's about the image quality rather than the megapixels for me.
Okay, alright, well, that's going to end part 1 of my interview here, Ruben. Part 2 coming up very soon. It's all going to be about filmmaking for all you aspiring YouTubers and independent filmmakers. Stay tuned. It's not enough for me. I want more with Ruben Kang of Ginny Boy TV. Now, I know a lot about the guys because I used to work with his partner, Jin, for a very long time on a radio station. Now, they just did it for fun and it really took off. So if anybody can do it, they just want to help you become the next YouTube star. Let's find out more about how to set up your own viral videos using something like the 5D Mark III with Ruben Kang. Just like the film Hot Shots, we had part 1, now we got part 2 with Ruben Kang here of Ginny Boy TV. He's obviously sometimes in front of the camera, but in everything else, he is behind the scenes. So talk us through filmmaking. What's a good starting point? What would you say is a good camera? Right now, I know you're using the Mark III, of course.
I mean, it really depends on your budget. Right now, I see majority of filmmakers are using the, what do you call it, the 60D.
60D, okay.
Right, the Canon 60D.
Oh, Canon one, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
The Canon 60D. That is one of the cameras that a lot of young filmmakers are actually using nowadays because it's affordable and it does everything every other camera does.
Okay, so once you've got the camera, let's set aside which model you should get. What accessories should you get? A tripod, flash, what do you need exactly?
I mean, okay, obviously a tripod, but I think other than a tripod in terms of practicality of like moving around, a monopod would work a lot better as well.
Okay.
We started out with that. A microphone, definitely a necessity.
What would you recommend there? A Rode one or?
If you have a 60D, if you want an on-camera microphone, a Rode Video Pro mic would be awesome. If not, if you don't mind clapping and syncing sound, a H4n would do a very good job.
Okay, the H4n, we actually got one which maybe I'll show you sometime in the future as well. Okay, so how do you train yourself? I mean, it's a huge learning process because filming is one thing, then you got to do the editing part.
Yes. I mean, okay, put aside technicalities in terms of understanding the film language, which a lot of people think it's something just easy, take a camera and shoot. Watching a lot of films and understanding why a film director used certain shots matters. So, but aside from that, the technicality of it, YouTube nowadays teaches everything. Tutorial videos. Jin is a self-taught filmmaker. He learned editing and everything all through YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about what programs do you actually use for that?
For now, we are using Final Cut Pro, but there are tons of other editing software which are just as good, like Adobe Premiere Pro. Sony Vegas does a pretty good job as well. But if you're just starting out, free software like iMovie does an awesome job.
iMovie is a good place to just learn the basics.
Exactly.
How
I started
operate.
learning from iMovie as well.
Okay.
When I was young.
When you were very much younger,
Small.
yes. Smaller, if you say so. What about the actual process of filming? I mean, are there any tips and so forth in terms of lighting, white balance, focusing? How do you approach it?
Okay, the thing is, it's a lot of trial and error because you can never predict how the setting it is until you're there on location. So a lot of preparation for most of us is the key of making a good production. Having your storyboard, planning your shots, and then racking the location, checking out the lighting conditions, whether or not you have access for plug points to throw your lightings and all as well. But most of the time we actually don't use a lot of lighting.
Well, I'm going to classify the filming and the editing as the easy part. I think the hardest part would be the creative spark needed to actually start something from the ground up in terms of script writing and preparation and so forth.
I mean,
where do you draw inspiration from?
Ideas for us comes from everywhere. I know cliche as it may sound, but for us, because we're a lot like internet geeks for us, Jin and I, we're always on Facebook, Twitter, and 9gag. So a lot of we'll actually see what trends, what relates to us Malaysians, what happens around you.
Is that key to your success? Every single video you've done has been very Malaysian-fied. I'm just going to make up a word there, sorry. Not so much an international scope. Some Americans might watch and might not understand. Is that the key to your success? Is that why Malaysians constantly share your videos on Facebook, etc.?
Actually, we never intended for it to be very Malaysian. It was just stories we wanted to tell for ourselves, that's all. So there was never an intention of like, we want to do it that way.
But do you feel now that you're almost obligated to make it very Malaysian-fied?
We try not to, because YouTube is a channel that is not just for Malaysians. We actually do want to hit the overseas market. And As a matter of fact, we're actually planning to film in October over in Melbourne.
Oh, nice.
So we're trying to get out of the country and also shoot as many places, putting Malaysia on the map. Because we don't want to just be constricted to just our country itself.
So, but you're playing it safe going to somewhere where there's lots of Malaysians still.
Also.
Well, that's a fair point, fair point. All right, well, Ruben, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Final word from you. Why should people get into independent filmmaking with a more affordable camera? Not necessarily the Mark III, but like the 60D you said. Why?
Okay, when I started out filmmaking, it was always very difficult. To become a film director, you never get the opportunity to play around. And in film school as well, it's very difficult to actually explore and have trial and error. Having an affordable camera, that's one of the best ways to trial and error, because the only way to improve yourself as a filmmaker is trial and error.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
All right, well, Ruben, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say hi to Jin for us, and of course, Jenny Boy TV. Don't really need much explanation from me. Just go over to YouTube, check it out.
Yeah.
The guys are also on Facebook, obviously, and on Twitter individually as well. Look them up because they are definitely the future of Malaysia filmmaking.
It's a good question. It seems to me that probably to the end of 2011 could be treated as a buzzword. And from that moment, it has become like a hype. What is the meaning of that? Just recently, it was possible to observe that more and more companies, vendors, are offered cloud services. And that is in particular when we are talking about Microsoft, we are talking IBM, Google. They are increasing their services and the scope of their services. The second, which is the indication that it is a technology, is that there are now more very special small services, for example, security. Because one can raise the question, if there is a cloud, the problem is with security. If you look at the number of new jobs created by cloud and cloud computing, you can say practically, if that would be an ordinary buzzword, we won't be having so many new jobs created. That means practically it is now becoming a new paradigm, working paradigm, new technology, very powerful technology. And it seems to me that the future of computing, in particular mass computing, lies with cloud computing. So whenever and whoever wishes to have some computational service provider can request it from anywhere using even their iPhone, using their Samsung intelligent device, and can access and run a huge computation somewhere in the cloud. That could be a cloud which nobody knows where the real servers run from, how they work, the interface is known, and how to invoke it, the address. Of course, the address which is similar to the address we use in the web when we are looking for information is there, and that allows the client to find something they are interested in.
Hong Kong, I went there years ago. A lot of fun actually, been there a few times. Also, I think the city has changed, to be honest, but I can't really be certain, which is where this certain game called Sleeping Dogs helps me out, in the same way that Grand Theft Auto introduced me to some, well, slightly fictional cities. Now, Avery has got a copy of the game. How accurate is it to Hong Kong's road maps? He has the answer.
欢迎收看 Gadget Nation. I'm Avery Score, and you're probably wondering why I'm speaking Chinese on today of all days. Well, we're playing the sleeper hit Sleeping Dogs, and this is a game that really took me by surprise. I was expecting a hollow GTA clone out of Square Enix. I suppose it's notable in itself that Square Enix is doing a GTA clone, but what I got is so much more. In fact, this game is largely analogous to what Shenmue might be today, as influenced by the GTA franchise. There's little elements of Burnout there. There's a ton of diverse influences that merge together to make this game a happy amalgam of several genres. So let's rewind that back a little bit. You play as Wei Shen, who's a guy who grew up in the mean streets of Hong Kong, kind of had a gangster lifestyle, and his family, in order to protect his drug addict sister, moved over to San Francisco. He grew up, became a star student, and eventually joined the San Francisco Police Department, who transferred him right back to Hong Kong. So he went deep undercover. He hooks up with some of his old contacts from his adolescent days, and he's quickly back into the gangster lifestyle. So there's these sort of weighty moral decisions that you make in the game, and just really ethical conflicts that you have, trying to balance your life as a Triads gangster with your real identity as a police officer. You don't want to betray your friends, who are the Triads members, but at the same time these guys are complete scumbags and murderers, so you're going to have to grapple with that, and you can really see that in the psyche of Wei Shen. In terms of the gameplay, this game is extremely varied, really a product of its diverse influences. There's a lot of fighting, a lot of, bashing up of enemies, but this is done quite elegantly. Essentially, the combat system includes combos based on the square button, where you can press, longer or shorter in order to string together combinations of kicking and punching. There are counterattacks, which are really akin to those found in Assassin's Creed, for example, where you wait until your opponent attempts to strike, you press the triangle button, and you execute a perfect counter. There are additionally throw maneuvers which can be executed via the circle button, but you gotta be careful with these because you can't do them with these big grappler guys. They just won't move unless you stun them first. So that's enough to provide a great deal of variety in the combat, and if that's not enough, you can go to a dojo, return some statues, long story, and power up your moves and gain new techniques. In addition to the excellent combat system, which again is very reminiscent of Shenmue, there's some really top-notch driving here. A lot of the times the driving feels more like Burnout than it does GTA, where you'll be involved in multiple car chase scenes, and you'll be required to ram into cars using basically the square button, which creates this sort of blur effect similar to what you've seen in the Burnout games. Additionally, you can even board these vehicles, which is really cool, by moving up behind them and jumping from your vehicle to theirs. Whether you're on a motorcycle, on a car, doesn't matter. You'll hang off the side and eventually get into the driver's seat. Now that's really cool. And if that isn't enough, as you're jumping, you can actually go into bullet time and start wasting fools with carefully timed precision shots. It's worthy of note that this isn't the running and gunning experience that you have with GTA. The Triads do a lot of hitting each other. They basically enjoy that. They hit each other with sticks, they hit each other with crowbars, and they poke each other with knives. A lot more often than they shoot at each other with guns, and this is reflected in the gameplay of Sleeping Dogs. Additionally, there are a lot of little mini games that kind of string things together. You have surveillance tasks where you'll have to hack into cameras, and these are often creative and provide nice breaks in the action. Also providing a nice respite from the frenetic combat and driving is the dialogue and storytelling, which is simply top-notch. There aren't a lot of set pieces and long, expansive cutscenes. What there is good dialogue that really immerses you in the Hong Kong experience. One thing that's strange about this dialogue is that your character, Wei Shen, yes, he spent a lot of time in America, but he speaks with a purely American accent, and 99.999% of the time, he speaks pure English to everyone, even when he's being spoken to in Cantonese, which seems strange. It's a major plot point that your gang suspects you of being an undercover cop, and I should think that if you were speaking English all the time, you would be all the more suspect. So that's a little weird, but essentially what it is the typical filmmaker's compromise with its audience that's too lazy to read subtitles. So English is in the game. That said, there's a fair bit of Cantonese, and there's enough of it being shouted at you, hey, you want to buy some ramen, hey, you want to buy some shoes, that you do feel immersed and you do feel it looks like Hong Kong. In terms of the visuals, this is very much what you would expect from a GTA clone. It looks like GTA, it plays quite a lot like GTA, and the models are of similar quality in terms of the amount of polygons going into them. The texture work is quite nice, and the lighting effects are really a highlight. The sound is quite good as well. There are many radio stations that you can select from, very a la GTA when you're in a vehicle. These include Ninja Tunes, so if you're an electronica fan, you've got that, and some C-pop titles. There's even a little bit of Wagner and Beethoven, which is wonderfully dramatic as things get blown to bits and you absolutely ruin your vehicles. Speaking of vehicles, there's a terrific variety of them that you can have in the game. You can choose to purchase these and they'll always be available in the garage for you to drive and impress your dates. Indeed, there are a lot of girls in this game that you want to impress, and you're not forced into one sort of long relationship. You're allowed to kind of dilly-dally and keep time with many girls simultaneously. So if you have a moral problem with that, you probably won't want to play this game, but you do, there are a lot of girls, basically. So these aren't real-world cars, they're ones that you might recognize. For example, there's one that's pretty much a Lambo, but it doesn't bear the brand. Why? Well, similar to GTA, the car manufacturers don't want to see their pristine automobiles get blown to bits. Now, why do I say that Sleeping Dogs came out of nowhere and really shocked me? Well, I was expecting a hollow GTA clone. I was expecting, you know, not very much from this title. I was pretty much saying, okay, Square Enix wants to get a piece of the pie and cash in on GTA's success, but it's really a lot more than that. It's a game that has a unique identity, a unique atmosphere, and it's the type of title that'll really grab you and won't let you go. You want to play this game, and you want to play this game right now. I'm AV and keep on playing.
I feel like I'm in the Matrix sitting in this brown chair like I'm an oversized Lawrence Fishburne playing Morpheus. But never mind that, you're probably going to watch the film because I know I am simply by thinking about it. Now, after you've watched the film, head on over to YouTube and look up Enjoy Awani. All of our shows are there. Gadget Nation, of course, is included to go and catch up on what you might have missed in the past. However, next week, something you haven't seen. Why? Because we haven't shot the episode yet. See you next time. Bye.